Hey there, athletes. Coach John Ferry here from Team Whoppers. Very excited to welcome you to the week 2 athlete briefing for our half marathon extension challenge. So a big congratulations to everybody out there that did their 20-minute distance test this week, reset this stage for this part of the training challenge here. It's always nice to get that retest in. So do our quick week 1 review. And as discussed, or as mentioned, we started with that 20-minute distance test. So this is a tricky part. I know we talked a little bit about it last week. This is kind of an in-season or intra-training block workout. So we're not doing a big taper for it. We're kind of testing in season to see how we did. So your paces might have moved. Maybe they didn't move, which is also okay. So I know I kind of saw a little bit of chatter about that. So we've been focusing so much now for 10 going on 11 weeks of getting better endurance, moving our duration a little bit longer, getting ready to tackle the half marathon. So in doing so, we're focusing on very, very, very different things than the energy zones that contribute especially to that 20-minute distance test. Which doesn't mean that there's no improvement or that we didn't see people who had tons of improvement. It just means that it's not always designed to move the needle, especially on that kind of shorter, faster test pace. So was there still a point in testing? Well, yeah, absolutely there was. So we got to get a real world check-in right now to see exactly where you are, how things were doing. It's a great just fitness check to have along the way. We got to see if maybe we need to adjust your paces a little bit, forward or backward. Should we move it a little bit forward? Did all of a sudden you miss a couple weeks and have to come backward a little bit? So we got a real world check-in as of right now. And if nothing else, we maybe confirmed that those paces were exactly where they needed to be to begin with. So at the end of the day, if you went out and did that test, you got a great workout by doing the test itself. We got a real world check-in on how things are going. So great job getting out there, knocking out that 20-minute distance test. Our key run number 2, our 45-minute half marathon pace intervals. So this builds upon what we kind of left off at the end of the half marathon challenge. So we had our 7-minute on, 3-minute off, 7-minute on, 3-minute off, finish with a nice long 10-minute block at half marathon pace. So by the time we're said and done with this workout, we're 27 minutes spent at a half marathon pace training zone. That's pretty excellent day for all athletes. So 27 minutes spent at half marathon pace, gonna give you a chance to really practice holding that pace, really work a strong sub-threshold workout there. Really great workout all around. And our key run number 3, our long run, always our bread and butter, our staple run of the week. And the week 1 guidance for this challenge, the extension challenge, is 9 to 11 miles. So kind of once again, continuing exactly where we left off on the half marathon challenge side, keeping that volume high, as I promised you we would do, keeping it high over the scope of this challenge here. We want the effort nice and light. The one caveat here, if you raced last weekend and you aren't quite feeling that you're back to full capacity yet, but are participating here with us in this half marathon challenge, certainly feel free to dial back that long run distance. We're gonna have plenty more opportunities in the weeks to follow to get back up and have those comfort runs. But right now, the most important thing you could do if you raced last weekend is to make sure you get back to 100% health. So you have to listen to your body, you kind of have to trust in your training, trust in your kind of feel, and kind of decide what's best for yourself right there. My always reminder, the website, go in, even there's a little shorter challenge, but still make sure you're getting in there, checking the box. As always, a 100% completion percentage is the best way to ensure success. So if we didn't quite get it during the entire 10 weeks leading up to this point, now it's just 5 weeks. So we can do 5 weeks, easy, 5 weeks, 100%. That's what we're going in for. So go in, check that box, say you completed the workout. Now to our week 2 workout. So we're starting 45-minute endurance run with Striders. At this point, you've got to be getting sick of this workout, but it's still a great one. We're focusing on our endurance. We're using those Striders to change up our rhythm, change up our cadence a little bit over the scope of the workout. 45-minute run, endurance run with Striders. Key run number 3, long run, 6 to 8 miles. So we're pulling back. I know I mentioned last week, I probably should have started the top of this. This is our unload week. We're only in week 2 here of the extension, but we were coming in off 2 building weeks at the end of half marathon challenge. So if you kind of pick this thing up on week 1 of this challenge. It's going to seem a little bit odd to do kind of a big test week and a big workout and come immediately down on week 2. But this is designed to be an extension for the 10-week half marathon challenge. So we're dropping off the gas here a little bit. We're pulling back, taking the rest, because this will be our kind of last drop down all the way until the finish line. So speaking of which, our week 2 challenge, our photo challenge, is gonna be nice and easy. So we've been pushing, but now it's time to pull back. So share a photo or story about your lighter effort this week. Make sure to tag @TeamWhoopers, @TeamWhoopersRunChallenge, and bonus points for using #TeamWhoopersHalf. So a few questions that came up via the Facebook page. So what is the best strategy if the planned workout is more than your body can handle that day? Is it better to back off the intensity or the duration? So great question, which is actually a little bit tricky, per usual. So the general rule is I would say always back off if you don't feel like you're capable or able to handle the workout. And that can happen for one of a zillion very good reasons, illness, fatigue, just complete calendar disaster, etc. So if you can't handle the workout, feel free to pull off the gas, take it a little bit easier. So I will very often tell my athletes, if I'm talking to them and they're in the middle of a particularly challenging time, or if there's illness, or they, for one of a lot of reasons, they don't know if they're going to be able to really, complete the structured workout, that I'd much rather have that amount of time completed just as easy running than nothing at all. And then kind of you get to the part B of that, where I'd rather have half of that amount of time of easy running than nothing at all. So there's always a way to back down a little bit. What we have to be careful about is allowing ourselves a little too many passes. Life is busy. People are busy. The busier people I've found always tend to get it done somehow, however, but there's always something that's going to kind of move you off from this perfect training level. So the more often you start kind of giving yourself these free passes, can become a bit of a habit, where if it's once every month or so, not so bad. You're doing pretty great training. If it's once a week, we got other issues. You're not really getting the training in that you kind of signed up for, that you wanted or committed to. So it absolutely, you have to be able to give your body that pass. You have to be able to do it when you're kind of down, when you're fatigued, if you're under the weather, etc. We want to make sure that we're continuing to push you and challenge you and move you in the right direction. And if you're consistently missing those key workouts in favor of lighter workouts, then we start to lose the intention of that. So just be thoughtful. And so to kind of finish it up, however, and give a shorter answer to the question, is that my first instinct when I have an athlete that is going to not be able to achieve for the structured workout is to complete that amount of time as easy running. And then if I would go to intensity after that, if we needed to, volume after that. If he or she needed to shorten the workout to 30 minutes instead of 60 minutes, that's probably what we would do. But it's always intensity number 1 and then volume number 2. So there's a 3-part question coming up here, and said, how should I approach the next 2 weeks if my race is on 3/8? Next week, dress rehearsal, and then week after taper, like the last 2 weeks of the regular challenge. And quick, short answer, yeah, that's pretty much how I would do it, is basically go back, look at weeks 9 and 10 of the challenge. It's going to be very similar for races that kind of fall in these in-between weeks all around. The only thing that I will mention, I know we talked about it in kind of weeks 9 and 10 of the regular challenge, is that there were a lot of people that were intimidated by the distance of that 10 to 12 miles around week 9 of the marathon challenge. And at that time, and what I will say again right now, is that is a confidence run. So if you're super confident or experienced or feeling really good about the distance, want that final touch, that kind of double-digit mile marker, great, go for it. If you, in your training, have found that 10 miles plus really sets you back and really takes a lot out of you, then certainly feel free to pull back, do a little bit shorter mileage. It's a confidence run. So our training window is closed for that final 1 week out long run. You just want to kind of go through the motions, wear your race kit, practice your nutrition, etc. Make sure that everything is squared away come race day. Question 2 was, is it normal that I don't feel ready to run in 2 weeks? I've done 10 miles, so it should be fine, but I'm worried. And yeah, that is pretty normal. I'm sure there are plenty of your fellow runners here that felt the exact same way. And what I will kind of say to all is that the more often that you get out and race, the more often you push yourself or even test, we do these tests. The more often you race, the more often you test, the more often you put yourself in a position to be a little bit uncomfortable, the better you are to handle that situation. So if this is your first crack at the distance, yeah, it's absolutely, you should be a little bit nervous. The distance itself is intimidating. It's a hard thing. That's why you signed up to do it. If it's easy, everybody would do it and it wouldn't be fun. So it's a hard thing. You should be a little bit intimidated. But the more you do it, the more you put yourself out there and the more you try, you become more able to handle that difficulty, become a little bit more able to handle some of the obstacles that come along with it. So I like my athletes, even if they're marathoners, half marathoners, etc., I'm pushing my athletes all the time, what I call, race early and often. So I want them to be in B races, running 3, 4, 5 mile races. I want them doing distance tests. I want them doing as much as they're able to do on a race perspective because they get that familiarity with racing. It's the getting up in the morning, the going through their routine, the pushing themselves out of their comfort zone. And then when a race comes around, they don't have as many questions. They know what to do. So it's okay. If you don't have that, you don't have that background, you're going into your A race right now, take it easy on yourself. It's supposed to be fun. Go in, try to have some fun with it. If you've been up 10, 11 miles, physiologically speaking, you're absolutely prepared to handle this distance. So you don't have to worry about that. Now it's just about relaxing and having fun. And then, in the future, get those B races onto the calendar so you're really feeling comfortable with your racing. And then question 3 was, should I join a pace group? Not very good at keeping an even pace when I'm outside. So to answer, absolutely. Pace groups, amazing thing if your race offers them, which more and more and more do now. So pacing is challenging, is difficult. It takes a big mental strain. It takes a lot of practice to get good at it. So if you have the ability to unload that onto someone else and just focus on your breathing, your effort level, absolutely. Not to mention, if it's a big headwind, people in the New York City half are talking about big headwinds, you just tuck right in behind the person that's a little bit taller than you. You're all running the same pace. So you just tuck in, try to break that wind, work as a pack, move on along. So I have a strong recommendation on pacing groups. One just warning sign is 99.5% of these pacers are excellent. They do exactly what they're asked to do, which is run that even pace. But inevitably, it's not perfect. So make sure, although you've turned over the reins a little bit, that you're checking in, not being paced a little bit too fast, too slow, etc. You want to still be able to run your race. But yes, I would give a strong recommendation to jumping into a pace group. Next question was any post-race advice. So what would you recommend to do once we cross the finish? Rest, walk, easy pace run, sit, eat, drink, etc. So this is a great question. I'm surprised this actually didn't come up a couple weeks ago as we were coming into the conclusion of a half marathon challenge. But plenty more races to come. So this will be my recommendation post-race. So the first thing, especially this time of year, is to get into warm, dry clothes, lickety-split. Your body temperature has been elevated for potentially multiple hours, running this race distance. The second you cross that finish line, you're still going to feel nice and warm. Do not pass up the heat blanket if it's offered. Your body temperature is about to crash very quickly. So getting dry and warm as fast as possible will be my first piece of kind of advice the second it's done. Second thing I would focus on, as soon as I had dry, warm clothes, maybe even before, if it's the way some of these exit shoots work, is getting in post-race nutrition. So you've been taking in carbohydrates possibly during the scope of your run, maybe electrolytes, maybe none of those things, depending upon your kind of pace and experience. But you absolutely have extended a hard effort, and so I want to be taking in at least a little bit of carbohydrate, a little bit of fluid, hopefully with electrolytes at the end. It doesn't have to be a huge meal immediately, but within 10 to 15 minutes of finishing that race, I'm trying to get something back into my body to replenish for everything that I've lost over the last however long it has been that you've been running. It's getting that nutrition in quickly. The next step for me is typically a nap. These races start early, so you're up early. I said over and over again in advance of the kind of final weekend of the half challenge, Get up early, go through your morning routine, get to the race start early. So it's most likely that you did not come in here with an incredible night's sleep to begin with. So if you can get home after you've put on dry, warm clothes, started taking in nutrition, get your shower and get into bed, try to take a little bit of a siesta if available. Is one for me I really like. And then the final piece I would kind of say is, hopefully after that nap, when you wake up and you're feeling really good, the absolute thing I would not encourage people to do is to stay stationary. So it's very possible that you're stiff, possible that your feet hurt, your legs hurt, your hip hurt, back hip hurt, etc. What I would urge you to do, unless there's a legitimate injury, is to try to get up and do some very, very light movement, just kind of some walking around the block, taking the dog out, whatever it might be. I love if you're traveling to do destination races, it's a great opportunity to get out, walk around for a while, see the town that you're visiting, walk to a restaurant, whatever it might be. But I love my athletes and myself as well, at the end of a tough race, half marathon, marathon, ultra marathon, etc., to get out and spend a little bit of time walking. It really helps with that lingering stiffness and soreness that can kind of creep in, especially if you're sitting really stationary for hours on end after the event. So get up, try to mobilize a little bit. Well, friends, that is it for now. So thank you as always for being here. I cannot wait to see you back here next week for our week 3 briefing. Have a great one.